Hey, I'm golf broadcaster Matt Adams. The updated and expanded second edition of my book, The Golf Round I'll Never Forget, Golf's Biggest Stars Recall Their Finest Moments, is now available. Readers can expect to march with Arnie's Army at the 1960 U.S. Open, relive Jack Nicklaus's remarkable 1986 Masters win, and be amazed by the Tiger Slam. The Golf Round I'll Never Forget, Golf's Biggest Stars Recall Their Finest Moments. Pick it up where fine books are sold, including BarnesandNoble.com and Amazon.com.
Well, hello there, and welcome to This Day in Sports History. It's a daily podcast that, as the name suggests, is a look at some of the important sports happenings from the past. It's April 14th, and as you enjoy the final round of the Masters today, let's go back and remember what happened on this day in years past at Augusta National, starting with what happened in 1968 and one of the all-time unfortunate sports blunders. It was the final round of the Masters. The day started off with 10 players within 3 shots of leader Gary Player. Argentinian Roberto De Vincenzo was one of those nipping at players' heels, and his day got off to a great start, holding out from the fairway for an eagle 4 at the first, and then he followed that up with a pair of birdies on the second and third. So, through 3 holes, De Vincenzo is 4 under for the day and 8 under for the tournament. He added another birdie at the 8th to shoot 32 on the front 9. He played amen corner 1 under, picked up another birdie at 15, and then a final one at 17. He did give a shot back at 18, though, to shoot a final round 65. Or at least, that's what everybody thought. And more on that in a second. Bob Goalby was also having a great day. He birdied 13, 14, and eagled 15, but when he bogeyed 17, he fell back into a tie with De Vincenzo, setting up what was to be an 18-hole playoff on Monday. But here's what happened next. De Vincenzo's playing partner on this day was Tommy Aaron. When golfers are paired for a round in a tournament, they keep each other's scores throughout the round. It's the official count. After the round, the golfers exchange cards, they go through each hole and attest and sign the card confirming their score. Well, Aaron had marked De Vincenzo down for a par 4 instead of a birdie 3 at the 17th, but De Vincenzo did not catch the error and he signed for it. Now, by rule, if a golfer signed an incorrect card with a score in his favor, a penalty was assessed. If a higher score was recorded, that score stood. So, instead of a final round 65, De Vincenzo was credited with a final round 66, 1 shot back of Goalby, and no 18-hole playoff was required. After the error was found and announced, De Vincenzo, who did not speak English very well, said, "What a stupid I am." Well, as the saying goes, one man's blunder is another man's triumph. Goalby was awarded the green jacket, his only major title of his career, and at 45, De Vincenzo, who was also celebrating his birthday on this day, never challenged at the Masters again. Interesting fact, Goalby also made a scoring error on his playing partner's card that day, giving Raymond Floyd a par instead of his actual bogey on 16. But Goalby corrected it in the scorer's tent before Floyd signed his card. Also on this day in 1996, Greg Norman's nightmare played out live at the Masters. He started the day off with a 6-shot lead, and he was expected to, just kind of walk to the title that day and finally grasp the Masters green jacket that had eluded him several times before. Norman had grabbed the lead on day 1, tying the course record of 63 on Thursday. He followed that up with a 69 on Friday and 71 on Saturday, and nothing indicated that a collapse was imminent. Playing with Nick Faldo in the final group, Norman's day started a little rocky with a bogey at the first, but he got the shot back on the second. Bogeys at the 4th and again at the 9th, coupled with Faldo's birdies, meant the advantage was only 2 shots heading to the back 9. Norman's slide continued as he bogeyed the 10th and the 11th, and then double bogeyed the 12th. At that point, he trailed Faldo by 2, who was not in as giving a mood that day. Faldo birdied the 13th, 15th, and then the 18th to win going away. erasing a 6-stroke deficit to win by 5 over Norman. In his 22 appearances at the Masters, Norman finished second 3 times and third 3 more times, but he's never won it. In 1960, the Montreal Canadiens won their 5th straight Stanley Cup with a dominating 4-0 win over the Toronto Maple Leafs. It was also a 4-game sweep for the Canadiens, who had also swept through the semifinals. So, if you remember back on the March 17th edition of This Day in Sports History, this is the culmination of Maurice Richard's promise that he made to Canadiens fans back in 1955. Now, he didn't promise 5, just 1. But I can only imagine that each successive one that the Rocket and the Canadiens won, the more satisfied he was to have Clarence Campbell keep handing him the trophy. And if you need some context, go back and re-listen to that episode again. There was definitely no love lost between those two gentlemen. And in 1910, President William Howard Taft threw out the first pitch at the Washington Senators game, starting a tradition that lasted for 6 decades. However, Taft threw his first ball from the stands to pitcher Walter Johnson, figuring he'd need it, instead of to the catcher, as was typical. The tradition of the current president throwing out the first pitch at a Senators game lasted until 1972. In 73, the Senators became the Texas Rangers, but the tradition lasted a few more years, with Richard Nixon and Gerald Ford traveling to other ballparks to throw out the first pitch. And today's non-sports, did you know? There is a Starbucks deep inside CIA headquarters. It's mostly the same as other Starbucks, except baristas are not allowed to write the names of their customers on the cups. And also, they can't tell anybody where they work. And celebrating birthdays today are Pete Rose, along with former Atlanta Braves David Justice and Greg Maddux. Also having a birthday today, me. And you know what would be the best birthday present ever? How about a 5-star review and a comment about how much you're digging this podcast? It wouldn't cost you a thing, but maybe a few seconds, and it really helps people find the show. But no matter how many reviews stack up, if any, I will be back here tomorrow for another edition of This Day in Sports History. This has been an original Thrive Suite production.
Hey there, sports history fan. This is Arnie Chapman, a.k.a. the Football History Dude, and I hope that you enjoyed this recent episode presented by the Sports History Network and were able to learn some good old-fashioned sports history knowledge nuggets. I started the Sports History Network back in 2020 with the mission to help podcasters find a community of like-minded sports history nerds, as well as helping aspiring podcasters to start their own shows. We have a little bit over 30 shows on the network right now covering all sorts of sports history, but as far as I'm concerned, we're just at the toothpick in the ocean moment, that can't even figure it out because there's so much more coming. We wanted to create the ultimate headquarters for sports yesteryear, starting with Podcast Network and our website, but we're going to continue to move into other mediums as well. And here's the cool part, because we want you to be part of our team. So if you're interested in starting your own podcast, or maybe being a guest on one of our shows, or who knows, maybe even writing an article for us over on the website. Seriously, all you got to do is reach out to us on the contact page over at sportshistorynetwork.com. You can be as technologically savvy as a Neanderthal tapping on a stone trying to figure out this whole hieroglyphics thing back in the day. Again, it doesn't matter, because even if you don't understand the whole podcast space, we have a production team that can pretty much help you out with doing everything. All you got to do, head over to sportshistorynetwork.com, head to the contact page, fill it out. That message goes right to me, and I'll reach out to you as soon as I can. But for now, dude, I'm through if you're through.